I also, it's so interesting to me, like, different groups, and like, I'm gonna go listen to some words. Dancing. I feel good, but a little uncomfortable. Thank you for breaking us out of our shell. I did not mean any of that insulting.
Oh, no.
Okay, good. I was making fun of nerds. All right.
Communication.
Yeah. That's one thing I was like, well, sometimes conflict might be good because we get some really good poems. I hear what you're saying, but there's maybe you can have both, right? You can educate someone, and then but then I got this really strong poem.
Yeah.
So, look at me, make it about me. Okay, so our next reader is Joaquín Zihuatanejo. I may need some help with some of the words here too. Joaquín received his MFA in creative writing with a concentration in poetry from the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and that's where I first met him. I was in creative nonfiction, and he was in the year below. Ursula Pike and I, who has a book coming out soon too. You should go to her reading. And Joaquín's work has been featured in Prairie Schooner, Sonora Review, and I don't know how to say the next one. Huizache, among other journals and anthologies. His poetry has been featured on HBO, NBC, and in NPR, and on NPR in Historias and the National Teachers Initiative. He was the winner of the Anhinga-Robert Dana Prize for Poetry. His book, Arsonist, was published by Anhinga Press in September of 2018 and was shortlisted as a finalist for both the Writers League of Texas Best Poetry Book Prize and the International Latino Book Award Best Book Poetry Prize. Joaquín has two passions in his life, his wife, Aída, and poetry, always in that order. Please help me welcome Joaquín Zihuatanejo.
Hello, everyone. Hello. How are you all tonight? Oh, it's beautiful to be in Austin. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm not supposed to love Austin, but I do. Let's go old school. Let's start with an invocation to the muse. That's how they would have done it 1,000 years ago, right? My first muse, my last muse, my every muse. Because when my mother could not, and my father would not raise me, there was my abuelo, my grandfather, who was my mother, and my father, and my priest, my teacher. This is called El Jardín de mi Abuelo. There's a little Spanish in this. Don't worry about it, just feel it. Bendito, bendito, bendito sea Dios. Los ángeles cantan y alaban a Dios. Memories of my grandfather's garden come back to me differently than other child of the hood memories. Memories of my grandfather's garden come back to me in well-watered voices and deep chest hymns that begin as a gurgle deep in the belly and rise to the throat slowly. I remember little of the day my friends jumped me in. I remember fists flailing and afterwards those deep fleshy embraces only Latinos know how to give. But grandfather's garden comes back to me with aromas, with tastes, with corridos sung to the sun and novenas sung to the moon, thanking both sides of life, the light and the dark, for their bountiful harvest. Ay, Dios mío, all those nights we knelt together in brown earth, it was always about harmony, about balance, keyed and toned deeply, thanking the life-giving soil for its gift, and I followed suit, carefully pulling up cilantro, manzanilla, lleva del manso, always making sure metal spade never touches fragile roots. Sweet, ancient abuelito. How could I be anything but a poet after those moments we shared? Don't you see? In my grandfather's garden, chiles grew. In my grandfather's garden, children grew. In my grandfather's garden, poems rose from the earth like the twisted arms of La Llorona, desperately reaching out for her missing children. In my grandfather's garden, all of these things would rise slowly because beautiful things take time to bloom. In my grandfather's garden, all of these things would rise slowly like well-watered voices, like deep chest hymns that begin as a gurgle deep in the belly and rise to the throat, slowly singing, always singing. Bendito, bendito, bendito sea Dios. Los ángeles cantan y alaban a Dios. Los ángeles cantan y alaban a Dios. Thank you. Now we can begin. Damn it, thank you for being here. You could be like at a well-lit basketball court right now. Playing basketball with someone who has impossibly beautiful wrists. But you're here. And that is a gift. It's a gift not lost on me. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I used to teach, I was a public high school English teacher. I had this assignment with my students where I would make them write a poem in the form of a test every year. Because I give my students tests all year, they have tests from other teachers. And theirs were always breathtaking. I would usually write my test poem to the administration of the school board. Had some questions for those folks. But years later, when I was putting the book together, I thought I should try this assignment, but really try. Because I used to tell my students, if you're going to do this, you better make damn sure it's someone you have some serious questions for. I was a public high school English teacher for the best 7 years of my life, but I've been my father's son my whole life. This is called Final Exam for my father. 1. True or false? The night you walked out on me and my mother, you hesitated before grabbing the doorknob. 2. If a bus leaves a city at 60 miles per hour to nowhere in particular, and man, that bus has left his only son behind in the darkness of that city, how many miles will it take before that son forgets what his father's hands look and feel like? 3. On the night that you left us, how many hearts did you break? A, 1, mine. B, 1, my mother's. C, 2, mine and my mother's. D, 3, mine, my mother's, and yours. 4, true or false? In certain species, the animal kingdom, when a male member of that species abandons his offspring, that male member of that species is ostracized, beaten, and in some instances killed. 5, in the space provided, define the terms further, farther, and father. 6, on the night that your father died, what, if anything, did you have to say to God? 7, when we survived 9 days in a row before the welfare check came in on a bag of maize and a crock pot full of wishes that tasted just like frijoles, did you feel the fire on your fingertips every time my mother winced as she turned the tortilla on the open flame? 8, because of your blood, I have spent every day of my life enveloped by skin that's too light to be brown and too dark to be white. I used to hate this about myself, but I finally come to love this about myself. What do you love and hate about yourself? 9, as a young man, you A, never loved a young, beautiful, dark brown woman. B, loved one young, beautiful, dark brown woman. C, loved many young, beautiful, dark brown women. D, loved only the idea of young, beautiful, dark brown women. 10, list 5 things you're truly grateful for and 5 things you're truly regretful for. 11, a famous American poet's mother once said, single mothers are almost always better men than men are. What do you make of this, Father? 12, without using the words I'm or sorry in the space provided, write an apology letter to my mother. 13, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being not difficult and 10 being quite difficult, how challenging do you think it is for a widow to grow up in the body of the Lower East Side? 14, as a child, your son remembers hearing his drunk uncles whisper in hushed voices not meant for his ears, that more than likely you are not that child's father. What, if anything, do you have to say to them? 15, finish this sentence. My son, if I only had one thing to say to you, it would be, and one final question to conclude the test. Father, would it mend or break your heart if I told you I forgive you? Thank you. So those are very old poems. So old. Impossibly old, man. That old poem smell about it. So how about some brand new ones?
All right. Yeah.
Working on 2 manuscripts at the same time. Don't do that. So I was invited to be a Latinx scholar at Tin House this summer.
Woo-hoo.
They paid for my flight, the tuition, I don't know, it was like $3 grand, and everything. So I was like, yeah, dope. So I've been to Portland like 20 times in my life, but my experience with Portland is I fly in, I do a reading, I eat at one Triple D, diners and dives and drive-in spot, and I go home. Like that's all I know of Portland, even though I've been there like 20 times. So I'm gonna be in Portland for 9 days for Tin House, right? So I decided to skip the 4th day, leave the workshop, even though they paid me. Because I've never, like, I can go experience Portland. I can, like, go eat and go to coffee shops, right? I wake up the 4th day and I say to myself, Joaquin, they paid a lot of money for you to be here. Go to your 4th day of workshop. Don't skip. So I didn't skip. I went to my 4th day of workshop. And the amazing Dorian Locks, you should read every word they write, was our workshop facilitator that day. And they said, we're going outside to workshop outside today. I was like, what? I'm so glad I didn't skip. So we go outside, we're sitting under this big live oak tree, and then a bird shit on me. I got up, I excused myself, cleaned myself off in the dorm room, went to my rental car, and skipped the 4th day. So I'm out in Portland, man. I'm living the Portland dream. I went to like 3 coffee shops. I don't drink coffee. I had brunch, dunch, dinner, dupper. I was like eating I went to like 5 independent bookstores. I was experiencing Portland. I'm out there for like 9 hours. And I realized I haven't seen one person of color. So I wrote this. This is called Signs. Today, a crow shit on me. This is not metaphor. This is fact. This poem would be more romantic and less true if I wrote it Raven. But it was in fact a crow. There are more Black Lives Matter, Love Wins, Diversity is Celebrated posters hanging in storefront windows in Portland than any other major city in the United States. I have been here 4 days. I have yet to see a person of color in Portland. One might argue the 25th largest city in this country is not a major city. But with the combined statistical area, it comes in at 18. I find a bar graph online depicting the racial makeup of Portland. 74% white, 8% Asian, 6% Black, less than 1% American Indian. There is no bar graph labeled Latinx, Latinx, Hispanic, Chicano, Mexican American, Mestiza. There is one labeled Other. We might be in there. A group of crows is commonly called a murder, but can also be known as a muster or storytelling. Some of the most woke white storytellers live in combined statistical areas that are 74% white. Those writers too have signs in their front yards that read, all people are equal, people and planet are valued over profit, women are in charge of their bodies, as do their neighbors. There are signs everywhere in Portland. There is no way for sign makers to keep up. I do not know why a bird shitting on you is a sign of good fortune. I fall back on the advice of my students. Mister, Google that shit. So I do. Theories vary. The first search yields me 3 possible answers. 1, it's messy and disgusting. So is childbirth, so there must be something good about it. 2, after being shit upon, yes, the website used the word upon. It did not use the word shit. By a bird, one stage surely cannot get worse and thus can only get better. 3, it has everything to do with the odds. Something along the odds of winning the lottery or being killed by a white police officer near the North Skidmore overpass near Interstate 5. If you see 5 crows, sickness will follow. If you see 6, death will follow. This is not fact. Perhaps it is metaphor, certainly it is superstition, but aren't all superstitions rooted in truth? And just like that, I see a person of color in Portland. somewhere near the corner of Powell and 12th, a striking, robust, black man pictured on a billboard that reads, "This is a toxic-free zone." Sitting in Pine State Biscuits, I can hear the two white cooks calling back to Alberto, who's washing dishes. From the angle of my booth, I cannot see Alberto, but I can hear him. He is there. He is not other. He is here. He is. I count 29 white people eating biscuits and fried chicken. As I stand to leave, I notice a button on a white man's backpack that reads, "Immigrants and refugees are welcome." Thank you. So I got asked to do my 9th TEDx talk about 6 months ago, and you gotta write a new one for every one of those. That's crazy. Let me do the hits. First time there was like, "Can you send us a transcript of what you're planning to say?" No worries. So I sent them the transcript, and that poem was in the transcript. And they emailed, they called me back. They're like, "Mr. Joaquin, your poem has the word shit in it 9 times. We're not comfortable with that." I said, "This fucker's gonna win a push card. You're gonna kick yourself." But I'll do something else, because I like doing TEDx talks. So my wife and I share an office. I have a writing office, then we have this office that we share. And my partner, I got rid of the word wife, it's a shitty word. My partner and I share an office. And her laptop was up and my laptop was up. They went to bed at 10, I'm still up writing, working. So I went to close their laptop. And the screensaver, the page is like this MSN.com, it's like a news page that was up. And there was an article before I closed, I caught the headline of the article. The article read, "Transgender woman dies while in ICE custody." And then I read the entire article. And I had just finished on my laptop. I was supposed to be writing, but I decided to watch a documentary instead. And I watched a documentary on high altitude mountain climbing. They call it the death zone. You go above like 26,000 feet. Every second you're there, you die. Your body starts dying. That's why you go up and do it and get down, you know? White people. I'm just saying. It's all white people. Anyway, so step over the dead white. They're up there. They can't get it anyway. I learned in that documentary that when ice falls on you and kills you, or when it crumbles under your feet and you fall to your death, that death in that world is categorized as traumatic. That's what they call it, categorized as traumatic. So I wrote this poem. This is called Categorized as Traumatic, or 7 Ways to Stay Safe While Traveling Over, Through, or Near Ice. For Roxana Hernandez Rodriguez. 1. If at all possible, avoid any areas where there are reports of ice present, as even small amounts of ice can be deadly. 2. It is true what they say about ice. It is just as deceptive during the day as it is at night. For this reason and so many others, move only during certain hours of the day and try never to come across ice alone. 3. Remember, ice can hold you in its grasp for days on end, so carry water with you to avoid dehydration and blankets for warmth. 4. Let family know when you have left, where you are going, when you plan to arrive. Who would have thought the simple act of communication could help us survive ice? 5. If ice forces you to stop, pull safely off the highway. Turn on your hazards. If you have a distress flag, hang it from your car antenna. Leave the emergency flares untouched in your trunk. Do not step out of the car. Remain safe inside. Stay together until someone finds you. 6. If while traveling by foot you see ice ahead in the distance, stop. Grab the hand of the one you are traveling with. Do not let go. Never let go. Just turn and move with great caution in the opposite direction. 7. When you find yourself anywhere near ice, listen to your body. Do not be afraid when shivering sets in. That spasmodic contracting and relaxing of flesh is your body's way of telling you to get someplace safe. Thank you. I promise I'm going to read my book, Arsonist. You love the new ones because they're new, right? They keep telling me they're not concentration camps. They keep telling me they're detention centers. That's what they keep telling me. This is called Poetry Prompts for Detained Children. Write about the untouchable, something out of arm's reach, like God, the stars, or you. Write an ode to misfits, a poem of praise for those who don't belong here or there, a lyric ballad for the children of nowhere. Employ the interjection "oh" at some point in the poem. Remember, it can be used to capture their joy or your pain. Write a how-to poem about something mundane that most people take for granted. How to hear your mother's voice, how to see the sky, how to trust a man in uniform, how to breathe. Write about things that are out of order, broken vending machines, raging defense attorneys, this border, this country. Become that something that doesn't love a wall. Give it a name, a face, a history. Tell us in verse why it hates walls so desperately, why we all should. Write a poem from the point of view of a firefly trapped in a jar with holes hammered into the lid. Make the reader experience what it is to be something tiny and beautiful, locked away into a restrictive space. Write a persona poem in the voice of something that doesn't acknowledge the existence of borders, monarch butterflies, FM radio waves, rivers. Write a sestina where the 6 repeating words are mother, tongue, light, slip, silt, forgive. Write a poem about a young person armed not with a fist or a gun, but an idea that could free us all. Write a poem about a door unlocking, opening, and what it feels like to walk through it without anyone there to tell you you can't. Thank you for listening to that. I have done 4 beautiful things in my life. I helped raise these 2 young women, my daughters. My partner did the heavy lifting, but I helped. And that's my 1 and my 2 beautiful things. My 3rd thing. One particular turnaround jump shot in a middle school basketball game. It was fucking perfect. And this book, Arsonist. It's my 4th beautiful thing. You're supposed to open your book with an epigraphic quote by some famous dead poet, you know? My book opens with an epigraphic quote. This is a quote that opens my book. You don't know me, not really. And I hate to tell you like this, but my father, our father, has died from a Facebook message I received while writing these poems. I'm going to read you a poem called Causes of Degradation. After I got that Facebook message, I went into my writing office and I wrote down in my journal, penned page, I wrote down, how did your father's absence make you feel as a young person? And then under that I wrote the word degraded. So I Googled the word degraded. And the first thing that popped up was this scientific essay on the causes of land degradation, and there were like 10 components, and each component had this bold, all-capped word. So I thought, what if I just take those bold, all-capped words and I get rid of the scientific essay and I write a little thing for my father. So that's what I wrote. Air pollution. She left the photos up for a while. You hung over us like sulfur dioxide, visible and invisible, my smile on your face in the Polaroids. I took them down one night as she slept, hid them from her in a boy's desperate attempt to clear the air. A son will do anything to help his mother breathe easier. Fires. So many nights she pulled the lit, unfiltered Camel from between your lips. She told me more than once you almost burned us to the ground as we slept. When you leave something unattended, negligently discard cigarettes, suns, and all such small things, you turn flesh into debris. The ultimate goal of the arsonist is to destroy wholly or in part. Over-exploitation. You tried so hard to ruin us with your carelessness, hands covered in paint above a once blank canvas, and over-abstraction, just a fancy word for prolonged periods of drought. Logging. You uprooted sapling, piñón, nogalito, chisos, stripped it and left it bare. There was no way to hold the soil in place. Insects. Surely you must know encroachment of any kind can contribute to the loss of something small and rare. Pests and vegetation diseases. Eventually I poured gasoline on the photos, set them ablaze, cleansing by fire. I watched our faces blacken in the flame. Any poison meant to kill the predator will eventually destroy the prey. Firewood scavenging. In the darkest part of the forest, moss grows so deep that walking makes no sound. This is how you slipped away into the ink, shoes in one hand, flint in the other, silently searching for cattails, fungus, compressed flower tops to catch the spark. When you apply heat but starve it of breath, the ember becomes highly combustible. Animal foraging. If given the choice, we would rather freeze than starve. Even in winter, we would seek farther, forage longer than our fathers. We came to know intense shivering and slurred speech in an intimate way. Pasturing and overgrazing. It is uncertain how long the recovery period will last. We should have known something wild and non-native would refuse to take root in such an arid place. Industrialization. There was nothing natural about the rhythm we created. There was never a homeland to be lost. Urbanization. Fatherless boys find each other, become brothers, bound to one another by the want of blood. Those shifting variables make predictions about future growth next to impossible. Some things were certain. Natural causes included earthquakes, storms, and wild boys setting photos on fire. Economic impact was a child support check that bounced. Overpopulation was 3 brothers sleeping on a fold-out couch in the living room. Extinction was a cop car parked on the corner of Bonita Boulevard and Mañana Avenue. It was all so close, so far away. Thank you. So I ached over that damn poem. There were probably 40 revisions of that poem because I wanted each section to mirror the image that was being conveyed. So you have the section about the Polaroid photo. I wanted it to look like a Polaroid photo developing, you know? I mean, I buy this book. I put some. When I got to the section fires, I called one of my professors, Santi Frazier, and I said, Santi, I want to know when you light a page on fire, like how does it burn? Because I want the words to move that way. And he goes, take the page outside, light it on fire, be careful. He said, have your partner film it. And so I did, and it burned. I lit the corner, and it burned sort of at a diagonal angle up the page, which is how I made. I worked so hard on this. So hard, possibly hard. I'll read another poem. Is that okay? That's
Yes,
most ones I
please.
use. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. It's on the set list after this one. Oh, good. I want to do this one. This one's not dark and sad. Everything else is. I was a public high school English teacher. I would love teaching about archetypal symbolism because I used like 5-minute clips from Star Wars: A New Hope to teach archetypal symbolism. You know, the archetypal hero, the platonic ideal woman. It's Leia. Anyway, so many archetypes. And when I would tell my students about archetypes, they're ancient symbols. We don't know how they exist. We just know that a 10-year-old boy in Guatemala and a 90-year-old man in England, when they read the word fire on a page, it means the same thing to both of them in their gut. It's stronger than a symbol, so we call it an archetype. Even numbers can be archetypal. 3 is a very patriarchal, fatherly number in literature. 4 is the life cycle, it's the seasons. Nothing can create life except woman. So 4 is, of course, the matriarchal number. And when I would say this to them, I had this moment in the class where I go, so if 3 is the patriarchal number and 4 is the matriarchal number, young scholars, why do you think everyone's favorite number is young 18-year-old Joaquin in a class? Your mother and father do love each other. No, they don't, Joaquin. This is called Archetypes. This is my favorite poem in the book. I think on some days it's my favorite poem. Today it's my favorite poem. Archetypes. 3. I will tell you 3 things about my father, and one will be a lie. My father left the year I was born. My father's heart, like mine and yours, is made up of 4 chambers, but only 3 work well. My father's left atrium broke the day he walked away from me. There were 3 of us. We all came from different fathers, but the same mother. We all have different colored eyes with the same smile. We're all different but the same. We're all different but the same. We're all different but the same. 4. I think I've only loved 4 women in my life well. At some point, you should take all the money in your wallet and spend it on the women in your life that you have loved well. At this exact moment, counting the change in my pocket, I currently have just under $7 on me. I would buy the first woman a white peach because she once moaned after biting into one. I would buy the second woman a pack of sugar-free gum because she is diabetic. I would buy the third one a disposable camera, which seems insignificant, but oh, can you imagine the possibilities in those 24 exposures? The fourth woman, I would give this poem, as I would likely be out of money at this point. This section of the poem says as much about the fourth woman's love of poetry as it does about my ability to budget money well. I'm writing this poem in an airport. My flight lands at 4 p.m. and there's a very good chance my phone will be dead by then. When I land, I don't want to call the 4 women I've loved well. I want to call all the women I did not love well and tell them just how sorry I am. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 7. My favorite movie growing up as a kid was The Magnificent Seven, a remake of the classic Japanese film The Seven Samurai. In terms of film, my favorite childhood movie is An American Bastard. But it's a good one. So am I. So are my brothers. You could teach a class on archetypal symbolism from just that film alone. The star of that film, Yul Brynner, died of lung cancer. Just before he died, he shot one of the most powerful and poignant public service announcements. That PSA ends with Yul Brynner staring into your soul from inside the black and white television, repeating 3 words, just don't smoke. I swear it must have run 7 times a night during the prime time of my youth. And though I can't be certain of it, I think those may have been Yul Brynner's last words. When I was 7, I learned that my father smoked unfiltered Camels. So did Yul Brynner. And though I can't be certain of it, I think in the end it will not be my father's metaphorical broken heart, nor will it be his actual broken heart that gets the best of him. In the end, it will be his lungs, and I, his firstborn son, will not get to be there to hold his hand when he dies. I will not get to hear his last words. I will not get to ask for or accept his forgiveness. In the end, there will be only silence. I forgive you. 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 I just found out my flight is delayed. It will not land until 7 p.m. Will the women I have not loved well forgive me for my silence? Or for the times I should have been silent but was not? Will they forgive my carelessness with money? Or my carelessness with all 4 chambers of the human heart? Will they forgive me for loving words more than I loved them? Will they forgive me for all the poems I've written about them? For all the poems I haven't written about them? I want to write a collection of 28 poems, 7 poems for each of the 4 women I have loved well, and though I love them all, I will reserve the use of closed form for only one of them. I will write her 7 Shakespearean sonnets, no. I will write her 7 villanelles, no. I will write her 7 epic poems written in rhyming couplets, no. I will write her 7 powerful and poignant PSAs that will all end the same with 3 words, repeating, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. There's a famous song in Mexico called Por tu maldito amor. Great title. Poem. So this poem's called For Your Damn Love. Your mother was a devout Catholic. Your father was an atheist. You are intentionally using the past tense. She is now Mormon. He is now dead. For this reason and so many others, you constantly find yourself praying to nothing. You search for the sacred in the night sky. An empty hand, a plastic bag with a large hole in it. Since his death, everything has a hole in it, including you. How is it that you mourn so deeply, weep in an empty hotel room late at night over a man who left all those years ago and never came back? They gave you an explanation, an obituary. So many words, sentences, paragraphs, there is no mention of you in the body. You are a something, reduced to a nothing, a dried riverbed, a forgotten secret, a roll of exposed film. You recall the photograph of him that you burned as a child. His foolish, resplendent body so thin and skeletal, the right angles of his shoulders, the terse edges of his elbows. It is because of him that every part of you is sharp, knuckles, knees, tongue. You inherited that much from him. You do not tell your mother that your father is dead. You do not see the point. She has been remarried for many years. She only ever talked about your father in her sleep. You wake late at night from the ache of hunger, sit up, let your legs dangle over the fold-out couch, the only bed you knew as a child. You walk past her bedroom door on the way to the kitchen. You learn from her that it is possible for someone to cry in their sleep. You can only make out one word between sobs, his name, which is also yours. Many months after hearing the news, you call your mother, ask her how she is doing, make small talk, say it in passing. My father is dead. She is silent. She is new moon, a calloused palm, a torn grocery bag dancing within wind in a vacant parking lot. She severs the silence with pointed gossip about a distant cousin, scolds the dog in Spanish for knocking over the water bowl, such piercing indifference. You can hear her story on the television behind her. She will not carry this with you. You are using the present tense intentionally. Half of your past is gone forever. The other half refuses to acknowledge that any of it happened, happens, and there you are, a boy, standing in front of a gray metal trash can in the alley that parallels beneath the boulevard, a photo of a slender blonde man in one hand, your Theo's Zippo lighter in the other. Above you a hollow moon lingers. In the distance, a gurgling borracho sings Por tu maldito amor. Beautifully, you close your eyes, hear a voice that might be the drunk man's, or your father's, or yours, whisper, burn it, turn it all to ash, and warm yourself by the embers. Thank you. Not long after I got that initial Facebook message from the stranger who shared half my blood, my half-sister, she sent me a photograph of my father's obituary, and I mentioned in a poem that there was no mention of me in it. So I rewrote that motherfucker. This is called The Breath of Our Disconnection, or on finding out that I was left out of my father's obituary. He is survived by sheet-soiled crimson, crumpled cold on hospital floor, survived by blood in lungs, throat, and mouth, hair in sink, by chemotherapy, by diagnosis, survived by pain inside and shortness of breath, by calloused hands, farm jack, come along, whirly jig. He is survived by new family and new priorities, by community college art classes, by not so brown boy, by the ideal of beautiful brown woman. He is survived by pills of different colors and sizes, by PTSD, by Agent Orange. He is survived by severed limbs and wails of soldiers too young for death, by Ho Chi Minh City, Unit, Core, God, and Country, Act 1 of Hamlet, by paint by numbers, survived by amniotic fluid in lungs, throat, and mouth, by unbuckled belt and floral print dress in the floorboard of a Chevy, by young man and younger woman swaying in time in small town Texas dance hall. He is survived by I'm so lonesome I could cry, playing on the jukebox. Thank you so much for listening to that. All right, this isn't on the set list, but I'm going to do it anyway. I wrote this 2 days ago. So it's rough. I was in Philly for the last few days, And it's like 1 in the morning, and I love walking through cities at night, because like I was raised in Dallas, in the shadows of downtown Dallas, in a neighborhood called Huizache, and as soon as I could, like, sneak out of the house and walk around the city at night, I would. So like, I love cities at night. I told the students today, like, you can get killed, you know that, right? Like, you can get killed until you walk around at night. I was like, yeah, I know, but like, you can get killed, you know, walking through the woods. So I love cities at night. This is called In the Belly first. Because hunger is a motherfucker. I mean that hollow anger of an empty belly kind of hunger. People who have never known hunger intimately call it a stomach. People like me call it a belly. I have found that I'm more comfortable walking at midnight through a city to a Wawa than I am at walking at noon through woods. I went to the city because I wished to live deliberately, just under a mile walk from my hotel, halfway between the convenience store and I. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's I. I cross under the I-95 overpass. My mother crosses herself every time she drives under a bridge. To this day, I don't know why. There I will pass a man. In this poem, I'm choosing to believe it is a man, asleep and engulfed in a comforter, head to toe. It is so fucking cold. There is no way to communicate this effectively without cursing. I keep my hands in my pockets, my head down, the wind, the noise, the smell. It is all so damn unforgiving. Despite the late hour and the cold, the convenience store is alive and impossibly crowded. I walk out, weighed down by Trident tropical flavor gum, half a meatball sub, a cup of chili, 2 bottles of water, and a half and half iced tea lemonade. I'm using the present tense intentionally. I want you to see him as I do then. Now, I make my way back to the hotel, but stop beneath the underpass. I cross myself, and I know why. I lay a bottle of water off to the side. The cup of chili I place so that it is just touching the blanket, near where the shape of a human head can be seen, partly for the warmth of it, partly for the smell of it, but mostly because you feel a poem like a cup of hot chili in the belly first. Thank you. I'm getting ready to close out. How y'all feeling? Good? Thank you again so much for listening to me. To new poems, to old poems. Okay, the first one I did was called Abuelo's Garden. It's from my book, Varios Songs. It's the only book I have in translation where it's in English and then translated in Spanish. I didn't do it. A beautiful poet named Marco Antonio Huerta did it for me. He's lovely and beautiful and exquisite and talented. And we have the book for sale tonight. So if you want a book in Spanish and English, buy Varios Songs. The second poem I was doing is called Final Exam for my father. That's from a book I wrote called Family Tree. It's also here as well. There's 12 writing prompts in the back of that book. If you want it to be, some instruction on how to write it, they're based off forms that I use in the like the test poem or whatnot. You'll see if you buy it. And then Arsonist I have as well for sale. So I'm going to close with a new one. This new, I'm working on 2 manuscripts right now, and this new one, all these new things that I've read tonight are from one of those 2 manuscripts. I haven't read anything from the other. It's not ready to be read yet. I have a great title. Can I tell you my title from the book? Someone's going to really want to publish it just from the title. Not ravens, but crows. Not ravens, but crows, right? Doesn't that sound like a fucking title of a book? And it's like, you're like, oh, that's so deep or poetic. But here's the true story. I graduated with my MFA a couple of years ago, and there was a party thrown by my beautiful partner and a couple of people in my honor. So we invited all my professors showed up. And I noticed outside, Sherwin Bitsui, the Sherwin Bitsui, and James Aluñora Stevens, the James Aluñora Stevens are outside, my professors, and they're smoking cigarettes together. And I love to go hang out with people who smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke cigarettes, but I love like rubbing up against someone who's smoking a cigarette because they're always so cool and funny and insightful. And I'll like write down what they're saying for a future poem or whatever. So I went out there and I was kind of hanging out, and when they were smoking, and there's these 2 big black birds on the telephone pole right in front of us, right? And Sherwin Bitsui is so fucking cool. He just looks up and he goes, huh, crows. No, I'm sorry, he goes, huh, ravens. That's all he said. And then James is right next to me, goes, not ravens, but crows. Wrote that shit right down. I carried that phrase around for like 3 years. And now it's going to be the title of my new book. But it's also like, did you hear that line in the poem Signs about ravens and crows, right? And there's like 2 more poems have the mention of ravens, crows inside the same. So like it fits, it works. Let's do it. Thank you. By the way, I want to let you know, like I won the Tasahio Writers Retreat Prize. So I'm leaving from this reading tonight, and I'm being driven to a deep woods 60 miles from here. Where I get to spend the next 8 days writing in a cabin.
Wow.
How awesome is that? I don't know what it's going to look like till tomorrow morning. It's going to be probably just total darkness when I get there. But I'm so honored, and so thank you to the Tasahio Writers Retreat for having me and letting me be 60 miles or 50 miles from Austin, whatever it is, in the beautiful hill country, in their cabin, writing. Can't wait. Thank you to them, and thank you ACC so much for making this possible. And thank you Tari for reading. Thank you. It was breathtaking. Give it up for Tari, the person. I don't write a lot about my abuelita. My grandmother died when I was very, very small. I remember so much about her. She was constantly making tortillas. Like almost all my memories of my grandmother are her in the kitchen cooking. And I don't know if you've ever seen anyone make homemade tortillas. It's a very floury process. I remember one time my tío Salstino was like, man, I don't know cups come here. It was like a coca factory in here. I didn't get the joke when I was like 9, but like now I get it, you know? My grandmother also made the sign of the cross on her bodice like 1,000 times a day. Hijo, gravity force. And I'm like, abuela, I got it. Let's leave God out of this one. Let him take care of like the tornadoes. I got them. And then she hit me on the back of the head and cursed me on screen. Such a smart ass, even at like 9. She also cursed a lot. She cursed all the damn time. In Spanish and English. That's just how she loved us, you know? So I wrote this, and this is going to go in the new book. And I love her so much. My abuelita bonita. Such a strong one. So this is for her. Maybe all of them are for her, by the way. This is called Este acto de tomar. This act of taking. Para mi abuela. For my grandmother. Ella dijo que solo un hombre podía concebir una trinidad formada por un padre, un hijo y un fantasma del hijo asesinado. She said only a man could conceive a trinity formed of a father, a son, and the ghost of the slain son. Ella dijo que una de esas trinidades es imposible. She said one such trinity is impossible. Ella dijo que si mirar de cerca de la estatua de la Virgen Madre en el altar, verás donde se ha estillado el vestido azul en algunos lugares, causado sin duda por las manos de hombres irreflexivos, revelando el yeso blanco debajo. Solo la Virgen Madre tiene un alma sin mancha. No puede haber padre, ni hijo, ni fantasma sin madre que les dé toda la vida. She said, if you look at the statue of the Virgin Mother closely on the altar, you will see where the blue of her gown is chipped away in some places, caused no doubt by the hands of thoughtless men, revealing the white plaster beneath. Only the Virgin Mother has a soul without blemish. There can be no father, no son, no ghost without a mother to give them all life. Ella dijo que vendrán y nos quitarán todo esto. She said they will come and take all of this from us. Ella dijo que es una cosa tan masculina este acto de tomar. She said it is such a masculine thing, this act of taking. Ella dijo que solo había una palabra en inglés para amor, pero hay muchas para robar. She said there is only one word in English for love, but there are many for theft. Ella dijo que está bien llorar, simplemente no delante de ellos, nunca delante de ellos. She said it's okay to cry. Just not in front of them. Never in front of them. Ella dijo que se jodan. That's my favorite line in the whole poem. She said, fuck them. Ella dijo que no es pecado maldecir. She said it is not a sin to curse. Ella dijo que solo puedes odiar y amar en el idioma que se te da. She said you can only hate and love in the language you are given. Austin, thank you so much for listening to me.
You've been an amazing audience. You should give yourself a round of applause.
Yeah.
If you ever do take a class with me, I am the steward in the classroom. I'd like to thank Maria and Joaquín so much for giving so much tonight. And I highly encourage you, if you have not met anybody new tonight, I think you should, because writing builds community. And I also encourage you, if you have the funds, to buy their books. Thank you to Malvern, and have a fantastic evening. Are you guys going to sign books?
Yes,
Okay. They'll sign books too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.